In this lesson, we're going to get our Photoshop files together. Alright, so in the last lesson we went ahead and we rendered out all of our different textures. So just taking a look at those inside of Photoshop, we have our selection mask, we have our AO map, our normal map, and then our height map. Okay. So what I want to do first is I want to go ahead and create a new canvas, so a new document. So let's go to File and New, and let's take our width and our height to 2048 by 2048. Okay, and we're just going to hit OK on that. And what I want to do at this point is I want to bring in all four of these different files, and I want to bring them in on different layers and basically tile them inside of this canvas area. So go ahead and select your selection mask, grab your move tool, click and drag that onto our untitled, just hover over that and then bring that in. Let's go ahead and snap that to one corner there, and let's hit Control J just to duplicate that, and we're going to tile this to each corner. Okay, so you can see that that tiles perfectly. Let's take all of these and collapse those or merge those down, and I'm going to call this selection mask. And let's go ahead and grab our AO map. Let's do the same thing, click and drag and put that into our new document. Let's put this in, Control J, snap that in. Okay, and again, these tile perfectly. Okay, we've got those. Merge that down, and this was our AO layer, so we're just going to call that AO. Let's go to our normal map, do the same thing, click and drag, hover over Untitled 1. We're going to rename that here in just a moment. So Control J, make sure your snapping is on. If your snapping is not working and not on, go to View and then turn on Snap. Okay. There we go. Select all those layers. Let's merge those down. And then height map, let's click and drag that into our new document. Drop that in there. Snap those to the corners. And there we go. Okay, great. So let's select all of those, merge those down. Let's rename that. Let's call this normal. And then we're going to call this height. And let's go ahead and get rid of that layer 1. We don't need that. So we've got our selection mask on the bottom, which is fine. We can put it at the top if we want. I want my AO at the very top here, my height map, and then my normal map. Let's go ahead and take our height map to the top there. Ambient occlusion and then normal. This should be okay. Alright, so what we need to do at this point is we're going to go ahead and hide our height map. We don't need that just yet. That's going to help us later on down the road. But we have our ambient occlusion here, and I want to go ahead and set that to multiply. And you'll see that our ambient occlusion kind of bakes down and multiplies into our normal map. Looking really good so far. And I want to create a new layer in between ambient occlusion and normal. Now the normal map is going to help us later on. We don't necessarily need this on right now, but we can go ahead and just leave it alone. Let's add a layer in between normal and ambient occlusion, and we're going to call this diffuse. Okay, or you can call it base color or something like that. Normally I just like to call it diffuse, just because. Now let's choose a color that we want for our brick, and I do kind of want to stick with the kind of a brownish color, and I do like this kind of red tint to it. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop that in. Okay, and you can see that we have this base color laid down. Because we have our ambient occlusion on top of that, we can see kind of the pattern of our brick that we're going to have here. And looking good so far. And now we're ready to move on and kind of begin tweaking our diffuse map here. Okay, so with our magic wand tool selected, let's come in here and let's grab our selection mask layer, and let's hold down shift and let's just start selecting just some random bricks in here, and we want to make sure that we have just a different color varying throughout our texture here. Now as you're selecting these bricks, just make sure that you're not really selecting ones that are right next to one another. That can make things a little bit difficult. Also, you want to make sure that you don't select anything on the edge, because that can become a bit of an issue. So you just have to remember which ones actually tile over. So for example, if I were to select this corner box here, I would make sure that I have to select all of the other corners, okay, because they make up that tile. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and select those 4 corners now that I have them, and we're just continuing to add in a few more bricks here and there. So if I were to grab something along this seam across the bottom, I need to make sure that I grab the corresponding block above that. Okay, same thing here on the left side. If I were to grab this one, let's make sure that we go over to this side and grab that. Okay, let me hit Control-Alt-Z a couple of times because I don't want that one selected actually. Okay, so got a pretty good selection going here, and what I want to do is go ahead and go to my diffuse, and I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this by hitting Control and J, and you'll see that it gives us this layer, and I'm going to call this light underscore bricks. And with this layer selected, let's go ahead and go to hue and saturation. Okay, so I'm going to come down here to my adjustments and go to hue and saturation. Now I normally like to create kind of these adjustment layers, but that is going to affect everything below it, so that's really not going to help. So let's go ahead and just can that layer mask there and that hue and saturation. And let's go ahead and come up here and let's see, I believe I want image and adjustments. There we go. So let's go to hue and saturation, and let's kind of just adjust these colors here. You can adjust the hue of that, but I want to kind of bring up my lightness a little bit. Okay, so just kind of vary that. Let's go to about 15 or so, and you can adjust that color as you need to. So I'm going to go a little bit lighter. Okay, and that's pretty good. So I'm going to hit OK on this, and I've got those lighter bricks, and let's do the same thing, except this time I'm going to select some different bricks and make these darker. Okay, so come in and just select some random ones as you go. And again, if you choose a seam, make sure that you get the corresponding seam as well. Okay, so got a lot of small ones here, and this is one of those bricks that were together, and I didn't realize that I had 2 of the same color right there next to one another. So I'm going to take that out, and I just chose the same one again there. Let's go with this one, and we're going to grab that guy. And we'll just kind of picking and choosing here. I'm getting a little picky. Okay, so I think we're pretty good at this point. So once you have some of these different ones selected, let's go ahead and do that same thing with our diffuse. Hit Control and J, and we're going to call this dark bricks. And we're going to go to image, adjustments, hue and saturation. Let's make those a little bit darker so we can see those, and we can adjust the color of those. You can make them a little more red just to give yourself a color variation. Make them a little bit more green. Okay, whatever palette you're looking for. I kind of like the red look there. I do want to make those darker. Let's adjust our saturation a little bit and just get kind of a good balance here for these bricks. Okay, so just kind of poking through here, looking at some of these different colors, and I think I'm pretty happy with this right here, so I'm going to hit OK. So now we've got our diffuse map set up here, And we've got a couple of different looks for this, and it looks like something happened right here. Let's hit Control A, or Control Z, I'm sorry. And actually, let's hit Control Z one more time. I want to select that. Let's just delete that color out of there. For some reason, on our selection, that didn't show up. So let's hit Control D and deselect that. It looks like we've got two different colors here somehow. Oh, on our selection mask, we have one different color there. So if you want, you can select both of those and color that however you need to, but I think we'll be okay with the way it is right now. Okay, so we have this selection. We've got our darker colors in, lighter variants. We've got our main color going throughout. And what I want to do now is I want to make the kind of the mortar area. I want to make that pop a little bit. I want to give that a little bit of a different color. So I'm kind of thinking of kind of grass in between these bricks. So I might want to make something kind of like a green color in between those different areas. So this is going to be a little bit trickier, but we'll go ahead and get that selection. So to do this, let's go ahead and select, or I'm sorry, hide all of our layers except for our normal layer. Okay, so with this normal layer selected, let's go to channels and let's turn everything off but the blue channel. Okay, now on the blue channel, we're going to go ahead and grab our select by color range, and let's just select a white color in here. And let's make sure that we get that white value. And it looks like we're getting a little too much. Let's go ahead and select one of these darker gray values. And let's take a look at that. Let's hit cancel and let's make sure that we have only the blue layer selected. Now let's do select by color range. There we go. This is working a lot better. So let's select that white area. I'd hit OK. And I want to do Shift Control I to invert that selection. And you know, we need to go back to our layers and let's create a new layer in here. And let's go right above our diffuse layer. And I want to call this something like debris, or something like that. And let's fill this. So I'm going to hit Control D. Let's get rid of that selection just for the moment. And let's kind of create kind of a darker green color. And let's just fill that in our canvas here. And now let's go to that normal layer. Let's turn off debris, go to channels, and go to the blue layer. Let's do select by color range. Just select a white value, hit OK, and then Shift Control I to invert that selection. Now with this selection, let's go back to layers. Let's select debris, and then we're going to use layer mask. Okay, so what that's done, if we go ahead and unhide all of our different layers here, what that has done is kind of filled in that darker green color in between our brick. So we're not just stuck with that that black shadow. We've created a little bit of that ambient color of the types of materials that we want between our brick here. Okay, so we've got a pretty good start on this particular map. Now what we're going to do in our next lesson is we're going to continue to work on our diffuse map, and then we'll even start to work in some of the highlights and some more details on this diffuse map. Alright, so I'll see you then.